Welcome to my review of the Casio G-Shock DW-5200C-1, also known as the Hero. This is actually a transfer from my old channel, and I've updated it a little bit. I had to remove some copyright protected content as well. So anyway, yeah, this is the G-Shock that basically saved G-Shock. So enjoy. Many of you probably know that Casio G-Shocks began in 1983. Now when this DW-5200C comes out, it's approximately a year later, 1984. So in June, about the same time as, well, I guess shortly after the hockey finals, you know, the Edmonton Oilers versus the New York Islanders, with Gretzky winning the cup, and about the same time as Bird and Magic, Celtics versus Lakers, were going at it for the NBA championship. This is what Casio released to us. I'm not sure it looked exactly like this in North America, though. Originally, Casio had like shock resist on the bezel here in North America, because the wisdom at the time, which was probably accurate, and I'm pretty sure it was actually, is that Americans would not understand the meaning of the word G-Shock. But anyway, this is the DW-5200. It used the same module as the year before. In fact, I think it used pretty much everything the same as the year before, except for the graphics around the outside on the dial, around the outside of the liquid crystal display. In every other way, I think it was still the same as the DW-5000, the original G-Shock from a year earlier. If you look at the band here, you'll see that it's different than the newer 5600s. Yeah, this is the look of the newer. This is from a GWM 5600. You see the difference here. It's got these raised rectangles around the holes, and it's got 3 of these sections with a little like dimples. And of course, it's the old screw back, stainless steel case with a stainless steel screw back. Although it wasn't quite this shiny, this one's been polished, so it looks a lot shinier than the originals probably. And here's the manual. That's all I have. I don't have any of the original boxing or anything like that. So it's a pretty small manual. Module number 240. Like I said, that's the original G-Shock module, which the module, of course, is the electronics inside and the liquid crystal display. So function-wise, this is just like the DW-5000 from a year previous. This 5200 was known as, well, it has the nickname of the Hero, because it's kind of credited as being the watch that saved G-Shock from termination. In actuality, it was the television ad that was the real hero of 1984. This ad featured a hockey player slap shooting a G-Shock in place of a hockey puck into a goalie's glove. What I'm going to do is I'm going to include a link in this video to a version of the G-Shock commercial, and I believe this version, it was a 1987 version. Essentially, Casio remade the TV ad when they released the DW-5600C in 1987. I think the original was on YouTube at one time, but now it's gone. There was a television show back then called Fight Back, and I'm going to also put a link in this video. I think it was Fight Back with David Horowitz, and he liked to take products from advertisements and basically, whether it was the guy hanging from a beam with crazy glue, or Timex watches strapped to an outboard motor, or and I guess he did several reenactments of Casio G-Shock commercials, and I'm going to put a link in this video to one of them featuring a G-Shock 5600C getting run over by a garbage truck. It's pretty cool. But anyway, again, this is the 5200. This is what was on the shelves available for you to purchase in 1984. This is what it looks like on my wrist. So what I have here is a DW-5600, which is, I don't know, this came out in 2009 or 10. Much newer watch, has much more advanced technology. And you can see that the M5600, the buttons are spaced a little further apart, but the bezel is actually shorter. So the M5600 is not as tall, it's compressed, it's sort of scrunched down about 1.2 millimeters or so compared to the old 5200. But, very much the same design. You pretty much don't notice the difference without having them close together like this. It's very easy to confuse the two. Here's a side view. I've replaced the strap. I got a NATO strap on this 5600. So there's a side view button comparison. The buttons on the 5600 are actually 1/10 of a millimeter larger in diameter, so probably not compatible with the old 5200 buttons. You can see they switch from the standard blade type screw to the Phillips screw for the bezel. And of course the M5600 has a 4-screw back plate and a tough resin or fortified resin plastic case instead of the old stainless steel case with the stainless steel screw back. So there's a close-up view. This is a Japan H. Actually, the Japan A, letter A, are considered more collectible, more desirable than these H versions. And another thing you see there, it's got a serial number. 65.2 grams. I think the M5600, from the factory with the original band, is slightly less than 50 grams. So the the stainless steel case does add a little more weight. 42.3 millimeters wide. Lug to lug's about 37.2. Thickness is about 13 point, I guess about 13, maybe 13.2. The strap's close to 20. I guess it would probably qualify as a 20mm strap. The printing on the band, it's at 141 F3. I believe this is the original band. I'm not entirely sure. It is a well-worn band. The straps actually get a little glossy from wear, kind of a splotchy gloss, because it rubs on the inside of your shirt, coat sleeves and stuff. Time for your close-up, Mr. G-Shock. So taking a look at the display here, pretty simple. You got the 200-meter water resist, shock resist logo down here, alarm chrono. The display is currently in 24-hour mode. You can see the little indicator here showing 24-hour, and that's switched using the lower right button. Just switches between 12 and 24-hour. Now sometimes, because this button does stick out a little bit, you can accidentally hit it and it'll change you back to 24-hour or vice versa. That's a problem that was pretty much corrected in later models. So for the modes, using the lower right button here, just quickly scroll through the mode. You got the stopwatch. This is the standard Casio stopwatch, with which, you know, pretty much anybody who's owned a Casio is familiar with. Actually, a lot of digital watches work the same way. Start stop down at the bottom, and the upper right button here resets it, or you can use the upper right button as a split. See the little lap indicator there, and then you can hit stop afterwards. So when you press this again, it'll show you your final stop time and reset. You can also just use the stop button to freeze it and then restart again from where you left off. Now you'll notice that the start stop button beeps, but none of the other buttons beep. There's not a beep tone function with the buttons like Casio put on later watches. Another interesting thing about these 5200s is that the piezoelectric transducer is on the front of the watch. It doesn't seem to make it any louder, it's just different. The timer is a little different than what we see typically on the newer watches. It's, I guess you'd call it a 12-hour timer, but you can actually only set it to a maximum of 11 hours and 59 minutes. So when it's set to 0, if you press the start stop button, nothing happens. If you press the adjust button up here on the upper left, momentarily, it's not easy to do. Okay, there we go. So now you can set the hours. Only the lower right button actually works. You can only increment, you can't decrement. There's no forward and reverse. So you can go up to 11. Now, this is kind of a different from what we're used to. With these old G-Shocks, you can adjust each digit individually, separately from the others, which is kind of a way of making it quicker because they didn't have speed scrolling back then. So like if I press and hold this lower right button, nothing happens. It doesn't start speed scrolling. So this will go up to 5. And then here's your 1s, which will of course go up to 9. So like I said, you can set it to a maximum of 11 hours and 59 minutes. So I'll just start it running. You've got a single daily alarm. And again, you set each individual digit separately. Now over here, this is the alarm on and off indicator. And let's see. Yeah, that's you can turn the alarm on and off using the light button. And the hourly chime you turn on and off. Oh, there goes the alarm for the timer. I'm not sure if I stopped it or if it just stopped on its own. Yeah, so that's the hourly chime indicator. You can just turn that off and on, toggle it off and on. And the alarm is up here on the upper right, which is a little different than newer Casios. So, I mean, the main reason I'm making this video really is to cover the history as these watches, you know, gradually disappear over the years. At least there'll be a video to go back and look at how they worked and so on. Or if you don't have one, you know, it's not easy to get a hold of one of these 5200s. So stopwatch, timer, alarm, single daily alarm, and then back to timekeeping. Now, of course, when you're in the timekeeping mode, if you press the adjust button, you can adjust your seconds, hours, and then again you set each digit individually. And you have month, day of month, and day of week. And the day of week is basically independent of the date. Because this watch does not have an auto, or does not have a full auto calendar. It knows how many days there are in a month, but it doesn't know leap years. So yeah, the full auto calendar, I believe that came out with module 691 in 1987 with the new 5600C. That was basically the big advancement of the 5600C. And then back to seconds. So that's all there is for adjustment. What else is there to cover? The test modes. There's no test mode. At least I wasn't able to find one. However, if you press all 4 buttons at the same time, that'll do a complete total factory reset. So all the memory is cleared, and it's reset to midnight or 0000, you know, all zeros, Sunday 1/1 or January 1st. The only other thing left to look at is the illumination. What's interesting is that the old illumination with the incandescent bulbs is actually brighter back here on these mid-80s G-Shocks than it is on the newer G-Shocks. Or I should say the late 80s and 90s G-Shocks, early 90s G-Shocks, before they came out with the electroluminescence. Because what happened is they actually went to a dimmer bulb later on when they changed over to the 2016 battery. Yeah. These old G-Shocks use these big, large diameter 2320 batteries. And these batteries are capable of putting out more current than the smaller, newer 2016 batteries. So that actually allowed Casio to have a bigger, brighter incandescent lamp in these old, got dust on there, in these old mid-80s G-Shocks. Okay, so let's look at the illumination. Yeah, as you can see, this illumination is bright enough so that you can easily tell the time, even though it's a an old incandescent lamp instead of the new electroluminescent backlighting technology. And that's something that you can't do with the like the DW-5000 or the early 90s G-Shocks. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed this look back at a historical vintage G-Shock DW-5200 from 1984. I like making a video because you can't. There's a lot of pictures on the internet of these 5200s, but it doesn't really cover everything. You don't get to see all of the functions and detail of the watch like you can in a video. Well, so anyway, see y'all next time.